GLC is now offering a free audio stream of our 24/7 broadcast that we're calling GLC Radio, an online radio station that broadcasts our round-the-clock audio stream on a variety of platforms. GLC Radio gives you the ability to listen to GLC virtually anywhere, through your home or office computer, or on the go with a mobile device. You can access GLC Radio through our website or by searching for God's Learning Channel through iTunes Internet Radio, TuneInRadio.com, or on Shoutcast.com. Explore various GLC Radio-enabled mobile apps by visiting our website at glc.us.com/listen/GLC Radio. GLC Radio, your free connection to GLC anywhere, anytime.
Well, welcome to the weekend update. And who we got here with us?
Well, we have a surprise. I mean, he
not much of a surprise, you can see.
Well, yeah, because it's like Ted Pierce. It was a surprise to us.
It was
a surprise too. I mean, I'm just driving through Odessa, and I knew that I could get a free lunch if I called over here and asked you if you wanted to meet for lunch. And I like Rosa's, so I just thought I'd meet you guys for lunch, and doggone it, you didn't drag me over here.
Oh, well.
Thank you, though.
It's been a couple of years since we've seen you. Okay, we got to talk to our audience about some big news, because when we were on here Wednesday, we were telling you that Dad and I were about to talk to the SES. Obviously, you're still seeing us, and we're still on. So, what I want to do is personally thank every single one of you who have been praying for GLC, because we asked you to pray for us that we would have great favor with them. We actually talked to the same man Monday that we talked to on Thursday.
Didn't seem like it, did it?
No, Daddy, it didn't. He was a completely different man. Right now, we have absolutely nothing to worry about at all. We're on. So.
Well, that sounds like good news.
It is good news. It is good news.
And thank you.
So, yeah, thank you so much.
Prayer.
Yep.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Well, prayer works. Okay, so now I've also got to tell you, I think I also told you on Wednesday that I had just recorded the program with Danya Greenberg with the just released Messianic Jewish Family Bible. That program is going to air Monday night, and you definitely want to watch both hours of that. Yesterday, I had the great opportunity of hosting Lonnie and Deidre Pugh. She had a miracle, to say the least, in 2008. She had a tumor in her heart. We've got the sonogram pictures showing everything, but it radically changed them. And I'm telling you that some of the things that happened during the 2 hours, it looks like it's 1 hour, but we went ahead and continued it the second hour. Some of the things that dropped into my spirit, talking to both Danya on Monday and Lonnie and Deidre on Tuesday, are going to have profound positive impact for not just me personally, but especially for GLC. Because things that God has promised me, now I know for a fact it's coming. It is coming.
You might tell people that Deidre was J.D. Crawford's granddaughter. And the program was recorded on J.D.'s birthday.
Well, they'll see that when they watch it.
They will.
That program will be airing Tuesday night, so you don't want to miss it. Now, if you can't watch it live or on live stream, once it airs, it's in the archives for 1 week for you to pick it up. But you definitely want to see both of those programs.
That's amazing. I don't even know how you get a tumor in your heart. I mean, the heart's a muscle, right?
It was there.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I mean, the sonogram shows it. And then the sonogram shows it not.
Wow.
So it's an incredible story, and I'm telling you,
Sounds like
it is going to change how you looked, how you look at how we're to walk, how we are to walk, and what we are to do, what the Lord expects from us. Because it's a two-way street. But it's some exciting stuff. It's gonna help you guys so much, and Monday night's program is gonna help you so much too, especially the second hour. But you don't want to miss this new Bible that they've got. I mean, the other one was just the version. This one has all the bells and whistles, and it is an amazing Bible. Okay, without further ado, it's been nearly 2 years since Ted Pierce graced us with his presence. He's a good friend of mine, so I can talk like that to him, right?
Been 2 years since we bought him lunch.
Okay, so last week I was telling you Steve Shermatt was here, and during the interview that I did with him,
Awesome.
I reminded him that Steve Shermatt is a part of GLC thanks to this guy right here, Ted Pierce.
Yeah, well, everybody loves Steve Shermatt.
Well, they do now,
I knew you guys would love him too. So
and we
I
do.
knew-
Thank
I knew
you.
it'd be a good fit. So
Thank you
he's
for
a great
introducing
guy,
me.
isn't he?
And our viewers love Steve Shermatt.
Yeah, well, they all too. He's a great
So
guy.
anyway, while he was here, he was talking about the fact that he's about to go, to Israel with Ted Pierce.
You know, thanks to you guys, you also know that we do these things called the March of Remembrance, and you guys have helped us promote that before.
And we're going to talk about a whole lot of that as soon as you tell everybody about the tour you're taking.
Okay, well, that's what the tour is about. They're giving us our second award at the Knesset. It's kind of funny because since they announced it, the Knesset dissolved, so we're not really sure who's going to be there. But they're giving us an award February 24th, and so the last time they gave us an award before, and I just said, the reward belongs to the people who walk, So anyways, they offered to throw this second one together, and they're doing the March of Remembrance there in Tucson. So I asked Steve if he would come and represent the city of March of Remembrance in Tucson. We're bringing a lot of people. Right now we've got about 80 people from different cities who have been in the March of Remembrance who are going to go to the Knesset and receive an award. So anyways, because we're going, we thought, let's see if we can, make it a fun trip. And the largest tourism company in Israel is called IGT. They're owned by Holocaust survivors. And they really wanted to help us get a lot of people there, so they gave us rock bottom price. So it's like a 10-day tour it was $2,700 in December. It's just gone up to $29. But I mean, a lot of people can afford that. So
Okay, do you still have openings on this tour?
sure we do.
Okay, so what do they do to get a hold of you?
The best way is just go to my website, and it has all the information, tedpierce.com, P-E-A-R-C-E.
Okay.
And it'll direct you to the people you need to talk to, phone numbers, email, whatever you need. And so I'm so proud. We're bringing 80 people. We've got 5 gateway cities. We've got JFK in New York, LA, Dallas, Houston, Hong Kong, and Manila, Philippines, because they also march there. So
Really?
so those are all the gateway cities for that price. It's covers your airfare, your hotels, your
From that
foods.
point.
Yeah, from that point. And so we're not really sure who's from the Knesset's going to be there, but all the people in the government who take care and help Holocaust survivors will be there. So we'll have a special reception at Yad Vashem and those kind of things. But besides that, we're going to be traveling around during the day doing all the touristy stuff. And then
Are you going to sing?
well, at night we've got a few different congregations where we set up concerts. Yes.
Great.
So we're gonna,
You might add, they're not dissolving
The Knesset.
Knesset
Knesset.
because he's coming. It's because of the election.
Yeah, until the election's
they
done.
dissolved it, like December the 4th, and the new elections are March the 7th, and we were already booked for February, so it was like, eh. So anyway, so that's what that's about. And I never really, I've never put a tour together because I'd be competing against all my friends who are doing tours. So I've never done this before. And yet in a month's time, we're already up to 80 people.
Okay, now I'm just going to tell you, Ted, that I will let other people come on here. We do tours, but I let other people come on here and talk about their tours. In fact, I told Ted, promote your tour, Ted.
Oh,
Because some people want to go with GLC, and they don't want to go with anybody else because they know we do the best tours. Sorry. But then there's a
well,
lot.
I do.
There's a
I've
lot.
been on a tour with you guys.
Yeah, it was fun, wasn't it?
It was awesome.
But the thing is,
Y'all went to all the places that the people really want to go to that our tour guide's not bringing us to this time.
oh, sorry. But we've got to do another one. No, your tour is going to be great, and you're going to be doing some things that we wouldn't do. But people want to go to Israel for different reasons, so that's fine. So it's Ted Pierce, PEARCE.com.
Yes.
Look it up.
Or marchofremembrance.org also, but it's easier to remember Ted Pierce, I think.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about very briefly. Ted he brought this in the door and gave one to all of us. Your new CD. He is mortified because he's never.
That's not the cover.
That's on the screen. Is.
Yeah, that's the cover. That's
Yeah,
the cover.
but these are special ones that only our group got.
Yeah, these
they
are
printed
just
them
for
wrong.
promotion and for
Okay.
autographing for my friends and saying thank you for all your help. So that's why I just wanted to bring it by and
drop it off.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I'll be listening to
But
it.
since I saw you guys, I started off on a whole new thing called the Cultural Exchange Series. It's actually 3 different CDs. That's the second one.
Because you're trying to do what?
Well, it was recorded on 3 different continents. We started in Warsaw, Poland, and Europe. This was done in Hollywood, California, and then the third one is Jerusalem. So, yeah, they're working on it. It'll be finished in a week. Then we have to manufacture CDs or whatever. But you know, as soon as they're finished and it's mastered, it'll be online. So I'm thinking a week or 2.
So actually, there's then 2 others that go with this
Right,
that we need in
sure.
our bookstore.
Sure. Well, I gave
We'll
you
be
one of them,
talking.
but it's the last.
Yeah, well,
We put it out in July, and I keep
Okay.
running out. I mean, that's a
that
terrible
must be
problem to have,
really
isn't it?
good. It
That's
must
right. I
be
keep
really
selling out.
excellent.
I'm
Wonderful.
fixing up my next 1,000 Tuesday over in New Mexico, but I just ran out before I got here.
Okay, well then, I guess, how
But
do
you'll
I?
like it. I gave you one. It's
Yeah,
in
well.
your office. It's wild.
That's the one that you wrote on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Right,
it's,
so
I-
this isn't
these
the
4
same thing?
Poles and 3 Israelis
Okay.
got together in a studio, and we locked ourselves in the studio for a week in Warsaw. And I kept throwing songs at them, and they go, "Oh," and I'd say, "Well, you can make it good." And that's what they did. They took songs that I frankly didn't think were all that good and turned them into unbelievable masterpieces. But then this in Hollywood, California, it all started because of a superstar from Poland who I didn't play with in Warsaw, but he introduced me to some very famous producers in big time in the music business in Hollywood. And they just sort of accepted me because I'm his friend, I guess. I'm not sure, but they're all Jewish. And can I tell the story about this one? Because it's really funny.
It is pretty funny.
Yeah, this one is called T-Roy because it's not like the other songs that I do. I was a songwriter when I got saved. Now, I write functional praise and worship music now. It's meant for a lot of different people to come together and be able to worship the Lord together. But that's not necessarily art. That's functional praise music. This, I wanted to do something artistic because I had all these fabulous people in the music business involved. And so anyways, the producer, she's actually Reformed Jewish. And the first time I met her, I asked her if she knew I was Messianic. And she says, well, yeah. You know, and I said, well, does that bother you? She says, what? No, why should it? You know. And I thought, well, I'm just curious because a lot of times it does. She says, as long as you're not Orthodox. So anyways, she says to me, Mietek Szczesniak is his name. He's a superstar in Poland. A household name there. Everyone's grown up with him. He's really a great singer, too, and a dear friend. I love him to death. And she's been producing an album to bring him to America in English. And that's where we were at when I saw you 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We were about to bring that album out. And anyway, she says, Mietek tells me you're a pretty good singer. What you got? And I knew that Messianic praise and worship probably wasn't going to impress this Reformed Jewish big-time producer. So I have a couple of sort of folky songs. They're more artistic. And I played them for her. And the next thing I know, the next day, there's this all-Jewish band there to record these songs. And none of them are Messianic Jewish believers. You got Buddhists, you got atheists, you got, you name it. They're all there. And they're all very famous people. If you check on the website and see their resumes, I have some extremely famous producers there. And it was amazing that God opened this door, you know, and I don't think anybody in the room knew why we were doing this because they called me. I mean, it's really funny. They try to shock me and see how far they can push me. And so like they'll bring me around and say, oh, you get a load of this. You got to meet my friend Ted, the far right-wing Christian from Texas, you know.
Because they're liberal Jewish people.
Yeah, they are the most liberal.
So what's the
So-
real name of this album then?
So I called it T-Roy because I wanted people to understand it's different, and because I wanted to be able to have a website that's not necessarily the first thing that hits you isn't Messianic, right? So, but they wanted me to call it Teddy and the Unsaved Jews. And they would laugh about, oh yeah, we're a Christian praise band now. And they thought this was hilarious. And frankly, I did too, to tell you the truth. But
Funny.
but again, whenever they would get me alone, all they wanted to talk about was Yeshua.
Really?
That's all they wanted to talk about. Now, some of them wanted to know about,
The sign of
for
the
instance,
times, isn't it?
Carl, the bass player. He played most of his career with Barry Manilow, but he also did some with Bob Dylan. And he pulls me aside and he says, well, I hear I hear Christians say that the Jews are going to all be trapped in Israel, and then they're going to kill us all, so your Messiah can come back. You know, and it's like, oh man,
Oh,
you know,
man. Boy, do we have a lot of work to do,
yeah,
don't
it's
we?
like, well, you know, there's a lot of end time scenarios, Carl, and you know, I don't want to get into Christian theology with you, man. Did God promise you a Messiah or not? Just read the Bible, see what God has to say. And this is, I've got the ministry of availability. I don't think I'd actually be allowed to stand up and preach to them. You know what I mean? But they all know I'm a believer, and they all know I want to talk to them about it. You know, so I'm just there for when they're ready to talk, and every single one of them want to talk. Wendy, my producer, the Reformed Jewish lady, she's fascinated by the person of Yeshua. We talk and talk and talk about Yeshua, and I talk as naturally to her about him as I would with you. And in fact, we wrote a song on here together where I told her I want to use this literary device to put Yeshua in the context of today in the Holocaust. So I wrote a song about the Rabbi of Kalish, and to me it's everything that he has, everything that Yeshua has. And I asked Wendy to make sure as a Jewish person that this Rabbi of Kalish in this song has everything she knows about Jesus in him, you know. And we sat down and studied Isaiah 53 for 2 days as we wrote this song, and it was really, I mean, it was quite an honor. You know, she's an award-winning songwriter. She's had a couple #1 hits. She's extremely well-respected in the music business, a legend in Nashville as a producer, and I'm having this extraordinary opportunity to write with her. And I really believe that, you know, what I've seen from hanging out with all my Reformed Jewish friends and my liberal Jewish friends here is that they really do want to know God. They really do want to know God. They just don't want the religion that comes with it.
Yes.
And it scares them, you know, when people start saying, well, you got to do this ritual or do that thing, or anytime someone starts laying rules on them, you know, they're scared.
Right.
So, but it's been a fascinating journey of hanging out with these folks. God's really given me a much broader vision of what Israel is. You know, most Jews are not religious. 85% of them are like
Right.
these guys.
Right.
You know, and it seems like, especially in the church world, in the Messianic world, we really have developed a messaging for the Orthodox, but not so much for anyone that's not. You know, I mean, you know, I told Wendy I've got this one Reformed joke. Okay. So guy's down at the butcher, and the butcher says, here's a free ham. You know, the Jewish guy takes it. He says, oh, maybe my rabbi will bless it. And he goes to the Orthodox rabbi. He says, Rabbi, I got this free ham, and would you bless it so I can eat it? He says, get out of here. He pushes him out the door. Get out of here. He goes to the conservative rabbi, and he says, Rabbi, would you give this ham a bracha so I can take it home and eat it? And the conservative rabbi says, get out of here. I will not give you a bracha. Get out of my synagogue. And he goes to the Reform rabbi and says, Rabbi, would you give my ham a bracha so I could eat it? He says, of course. What's a bracha? Now, my Reformed Jewish friends didn't think that was all that funny. But the point is that, you know, people that don't even believe or know for sure there's a God, you can't really talk to them about, you know, the sort of deeper things that we get into. You know, you got to keep it on a level of, you know, is there a God or isn't there a God? And if there is, who is it? And don't you want to know the truth? You know, and on that level, all of my Jewish friends, no matter what they say they believe in, they want to know God. They really do.
Awesome.
One of the guys I worked with, he was an engineer, and he did the orchestral percussion on here. His name is Rob Hoffman. Rob Hoffman works with Quincy Jones. He produced a couple of Michael Jackson albums. He produced the first 4 Christina Aguilera albums. He's the guy who broke her. Rich, you know, got the 2 Mercedes, living in Hollywood Hills. When the tsunami hits in Indonesia, he dropped everything and went to Indonesia and lived there for a year, helping people that couldn't pay him back. You know, he wants to know God. I mean, he, you know, to me, you have to have some revelation of God to do that. You know.
You know what, Ted? I think that the Lord has just really put you in that position because they are seeking Him, and they're like show us who you are.
Oh, I promise you they would tell you they're not seeking him. I promise you that's what they would say.
Yeah.
Yes, but in their heart of hearts, people seek God, whether they tell you they are or not, because that's a very intimate, private thing. Okay, we are running out of time so fast, and I know that less than 10 minutes is not going to be enough time for you to share about the walk, and you've got to share about the stuff that happened last year, especially Budapest and all of that.
I'll be glad to.
Incredible stuff.
This year, the March of Remembrance will be April 19th. Cities all over the world, Christians will meet in a public place to pray, take a walk through the city, and at the end of it, where there's a Jewish community, we invite them to take the stage. And this is what we've been doing since 2007, starting in Europe. In Europe, it's called March of Life because it's the church that's ordained me. They are the children of Nazis. And they, ashamed of this, began going to different nations where their fathers went and helping churches to stand against anti-Semitism. So every year we go to a different nation that we've been invited to, and we network all the churches of that nation to come together on a single day to make a statement. We started with West Germany 2007, East Germany 2008, 2009 it came to America and the March of Remembrance began. 2010 it was Ukraine, 2011 it was Latvia and Lithuania, 2012 it was Poland. This year we went to Austria and Hungary. In Austria, the first week of April, we went to Hitler's hometown, Linz, Austria. This is where he was born and raised, Linz, Austria. We went there with 1,500 courageous Austrian Christians, and we marched through this city. We marched out of Linz to the Mauthausen concentration camp and on to Gusen concentration camp. It was amazing. I got some pictures in there, and I never could get the entire crowd in one picture. It stretched out more than a mile long.
Wow.
And we walked through Austria, or through Linz, Austria, out to Mauthausen. It was really quite an impressive event that the Austrians put together.
For those in our audience who don't know what's Mauthausen.
Well, Mauthausen, the concentration camp. And this picture here is the line to the bathroom when we were finished. We had public events throughout the city of Linz. These Austrians actually they located and brought in 5 survivors of the Mauthausen concentration camp, and honored them in the biggest sports auditorium in Linz, Austria. You know, it was a big public event with thousands of people showing up. It was really quite amazing. But Mauthausen was where the Nazis quarried their marble, and it was very deep, and it had a very steep walkway without steps. And if you were a Jew there, you had to carry these wooden boxes on your back with marble blocks. And the SS would just, they were there to die anyway. So the SS would just play with them. They called this game bowling. They'd push one down those steps, see how many they could take out on the way down. They called this game parachuting. They'd just throw them over the edge, see if they lived. If they lived, they'd bring them back up to the top and do it again. It was cruel. And from there they had the Gusen camp, which was an underground camp. It was where they made the Messerschmitts, but it's also where the nuclear program began. Inside this mountain. Even the American nuclear, we brought over some of their top scientists, but it all began in this mountain in Gusen, Austria. And your average, because it was top secret, no one was going to live anyway.
You don't live there.
Right.
Leave there.
They will not let anyone live. And the average prisoner's life was 3 to 4 months, but for a Jew, your average lifespan was about 4 days. And it was very cruel, extremely cruel. And so we went to Austria to make sure these things were remembered. We had the governor of that large state, say it was going to be an active remembrance from now on, not just a plaque on the side of the road. And we hope he's telling the truth, but we don't really put our trust in politicians. The people of Austria stood up. We had about 1,500 people. It was, as you saw in that picture, it was beautiful. It was glorious. And then the last week of that same month of April, we went to Hungary. Hungary and Greece right now have fascist governments arising. Today. They have what's called the Jobbik Party, which is just Hungarian for the right. But the Jobbik Party, last November, proposed in the Hungarian parliament making all Jews register. But they don't control the government yet, but they picked up seats in the last elections. So anyway, we went there with 300 children of Nazis and a Texan. And in Hungary, they had the death marches. It was so senseless. It happened at the end of the war. When the war was already a foregone conclusion, they loaded up all the Jews and they shipped them to Auschwitz and Mauthausen. 1/3 of all Jews killed at Auschwitz came from Hungary. 1/3 of them. But first they were sent on a 130-mile death march to a place called Chopron. So we went to Chopron and started walking it back, going through all the little villages that had been decimated. And it was really sad. We went to this one place called Győr. I played in a synagogue that was 3 stories high, beautiful, and it used to have 6,000 families there, less than 20 Jews left in the city.
From 6,000 families.
That's just one city. And this is typical of every city that we would go through. And so we went to, by the time we got to Budapest, we marched through the city, and we marched right up to the parliament, and we put on a Jewish festival outside their front door. I think he's got a picture of that. Oh no, this
That's
is what,
not parliament.
This
what
is
this?
one day when we started. There was a memorial there for a Gentile who helped Jews that the current government took down. So we went there to make sure.
Where is this?
This is somewhere between Sopron and Győr. I don't remember. The Hungarian language is very hard to understand. But this is just a spot on the side of the road in our march. You know, we marched 130 miles, and this was just one spot where we stopped. Here we are in Budapest. We had on this day we had about 300, maybe 400 people marching together through Budapest. We marched through the city about 3 miles, right up to the parliament, which I think there's the parliament. Now this is where the Jobbik party resides, and as you see, we put up a little tent there. We put on a Jewish festival outside their front door.
What is this crowd?
This is March of the Living. This is the very next day. 25,000 people shut down the city of Budapest. Now let me explain what this is. March of the Living is actually a function of the state of Israel. Every high school kid will go to Auschwitz sometime in their life, and they call this March of the Living, where they bring, you know, every year they go on Holocaust Remembrance Day, and they go and remember at Auschwitz. Well, we've formed a partnership with them over the last few years, and because this was the 70th anniversary of the deportation of Jews from Budapest, they said that they were going to start the March of the Living in Budapest with us this year. So they came to Budapest, and Pastor Bittner, the leader of March of Life, March of Remembrance, was the keynote speaker for March of the Living this year. So they came to show their support for our march. Only, wow, they're 25,000 people. You know, we were 400. And it was just amazing. It was the first time they've let someone who wasn't Jewish actually even speak at March of the Living all these years since the end of the war. It's the first time. And it was Pastor Bittner, son of a Nazi, pastor of a church where everyone there are the children of Nazis. And they just absolutely love Pastor Bittner, and so do I, of course. You know, I mean, since I met those guys, life has drastically changed. But this year, they've already got, they did the Poles and the Germans came together last week for this march to Auschwitz from a place called Gliwice, Poland. They just held a huge march through Poland. These are churches, you know, these are not Jewish people. These are churches that are standing against anti-Semitism. And Gliwice to there is about 60 miles, might even be more. And they held this public march, Poles and Germans walking together. This is quite scandalous. So anyway, but between now and May, this church in March of Life has organized about 30 marches going through Munich, Nuremberg, Bremer, and ending up in Berlin to mark the end of the war.
Well, you know, what I know is that anti-Semitism is on the rise across Europe.
Yeah, that's why we need people like these to stand, and that's why we need to stand in a public way and just pray together. We're not out to fight anybody. It's a prayer movement after all. March of Remembrance. It's a prayer movement, but you know, if we don't pray, that's what's going to happen.
It is.
And it's time now, while things are still relatively peaceful, for everyone to be getting together. So once again, you can pick up his CD in the bookstore. You can join his tour. Go on to tedpierce.com, and you want to join a march this year. So look around your area, and if you want to be a leader of a march, I'm sure you can find out about that on Ted's site as well.
All the links are there.
All the links are there. So there you go. Thank you, Ted, for the
surprise.
surprise.
Right through all that, didn't I?
Thank you for the surprise text. It was great buying you lunch, right, Dad?
It was awesome to see you guys, and thank you so much for bringing me to Roses. I was hoping that's where we would go.
Safe travels, dude. We'll see you again
Yes.
soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
The Lord bless you on your travels.
Thank you so much. Shalom, and God bless. May the Lord pour out his blessing upon GLC and all your watchers and supporters.
Thank you.
Thank you.